A lot of fans think that Adam Murray and Kyle Nicks are the best centre midfielders in the club. Would you agree with that, and would you play them together more, games especially?
He's only been here 1 week.
I know, but you could see on Saturday for the first 60 minutes it was awesome.
But Adam played an advanced role off of Paul Connor, and certainly a role that I feel that he can play for this football club. I felt he's a very, very talented player. We did attempt to have negotiations with him in the summer. So I was very pleased when I got the opportunity to take advantage of getting Adam on board, and I'm grateful for the club for supporting that, I must say that. But because we recognise he's a very good player, Kyle Nicks on his day is certainly a very, very talented player. Again, I was pleased to acquire Kyle. For me, yes, they're good players, but they all earn a right, and I feel that I think all fans that when Gary Mills came to the club, and Stephen Istead, you hadn't heard of those two chaps really. I saw Gary playing at the FA Trophy final for Stevenage against York, and Gary performed very well. When he came here, he got off on the wrong note, and I don't think that he endeared himself to us as fans of Mansfield. But I'll tell you something now, and I will say this in the best possible ways, that Gary has had his head down. He took rather a few rollickings from me. He got his head down, he's worked extremely hard, and I think his contribution has been fantastic. But in the last 10 games of the season, he was excellent for us. And but I do agree with you, they are very talented boys, and they're going to be hard to dislodge. If we go 4-4-2, then there's certainly competition for place. But yeah, we recognise, I'm sure everybody recognises that they're both very good players. A good question, and we'll see.
Do you feel that there is a disciplinary problem at the club with the amount of yellow and red cards we picked up?
Do you?
No.
Good.
Half of them cards shouldn't have been cards, and
Top man, you are a ref, are you?
I've been a referee, yeah.
Well done. No, listen, good question. No, they're certainly not. If you look at our side, they're a bunch of softies. However, they're
sucking on his dummy.
look, they're treated correctly. We speak about discipline. I mean, it was mentioned afterwards Saturday that we've had 3 sending-offs. 2 of them, Keegan let us down. He knows he let us down. He let the fans down. He let the club down. He came out. He apologised to everybody. He knows he did wrong. Adam Smith's one of the nicest guys you're ever going to meet, and certainly not a malicious person. Mistimed forwards tackle, that was certainly that one. I've seen plenty of those before, I'm sure Foz has as well. Ones that are clumsy and just, if we didn't go for the ball, what would we want? We've got to, we want him to attempt to get the ball. He's mistimed it. I've seen the pictures on the and they don't look pretty. But however, he's not going to hurt the guy. Yes, and certainly the sending off of Fozzie was ridiculous. So no, there's definitely not. I mean, Andy and and the chaps was talking the other day. We feel that we had up to last week the second best disciplinary record in the league. All of a sudden, one guy comes along and he ruins it. So there you go. But no, there's definitely not a disciplinary. Our boys are solid. They work very hard, and they want to play for the club. They don't want to be bookings.
What is the policy at the moment on having the opposition watched, or do you rely on sort of a bit on DVDs?
Well, we do everything within our means to get as much information as possible, and we get a scouting report on games. But likewise, I've got millions of contacts at other clubs that certainly help me, and I know I'm being filmed in a minute, so I better not make that. But no, I mean, we would like, of course, to have a chief scout. That hasn't been the case since Ivan. Ivan was employed by us to go and watch the younger players that were out on loan last year. But we don't have a chief scout at the moment, and we rely on a network that helps us. But likewise, I do have a million contacts to help me. I mean, prior to coming in here this evening, I was on the phone to another manager regarding obviously our opposition tomorrow night. So, it is good to have contacts, but it would also be nice to have a visual of our own identification of things that we can improve on. But that's a cost. So obviously that has to be implemented. And at the moment we don't have that, so that's where we are, but we deal with it, and I feel we do very well with what we've got at the moment.
Good, thank you.
Okay. Can I just ask you, David, have Stephen Istead invited you round for dinner?
I feel we should fine the boy heavily. We weren't invited. But no, I think anybody who knows Stephen, ladies and gentlemen, if you know Stephen, he's one of the toughest little customers, and I think Fozzie would back me up on that. He's an angry little man. And when I witnessed what our head of communications had put on the website, I certainly did it with a wry smile, and no, I'm glad I wasn't there. But no, it was an interesting thing, and I hear that made the Sunday papers as well. But Stephen's a cracking, he's a cracking chap, and he's one of those you want in the trenches with you. The boys like him because he can't hide the fact that he gets disappointed, Stephen. But one thing, I'll tell you something now, if you want someone to run through a brick wall for you, he would do it, and I like the boy very much so. But not as a cook, let me put that way.
On the, excuse me, you've just talked about your contacts and stuff. Does it work like that? If somebody rung you up about Gateshead, somebody who played Gateshead next week and said, what's the weaknesses of that, what would you pass it on?
I feel that there's a code of conduct you have with that. You know, I spoke to David Hockaday over a team, and then we were playing him in a few weeks' time, and I said, well, what about your team? Are you going to tell me about your team as well? So I think that there's a code of conduct with managers, and I think that goes on prior to games. Certain managers I would never ring, because they'll tell you a pack of lies. But there's certain ones I will ring, and we have that code of confidence. And that's a nice thing to have. And if someone asks me, I think more people ask me about players rather than teams. Whereas, you know, I feel that they may have a chief scout, so they may not need that necessary information. But they do, you know, I get frequently asked about players, and good ones and bad ones. And obviously, you do your best to give people the right type of information, or if there's nothing good to say, make your own mind up.
Do you ring Steve Evans for advice at all? Okay.
Squad size started to get quite large again. How difficult is it without a reserve side to keep players happy?
Yeah, we've got 4 players out on loan at the moment, and obviously financially that's important that we look after that element of it. Mark Priest came to us a little bit out of condition, then he suffered a calf injury, and we had a smaller squad. The squad has been enabled by the new chairman to give me that loan player that came available, and I think we've all identified that that's a decent signing for us. The 4 players we have out on loan are young players, 3 of them, and obviously Mark Priest. Mark Priest I regard as a senior player because he's over 20 and certainly played enough games in the conference. We don't have a youth team, and we don't have a reserve side. So it's very difficult keeping those players up to date with fitness. People might say, oh, you can do it on the training ground, but I'm sure Steve and other players would say the same thing, is that you only want to play games. And that's the reason why Mark was allowed to go on loan, and like the gentleman over there, I will let others go out on loan, you know, as soon as possible to get that much needed match practice. It is difficult keeping everybody happy in any squad. But the one thing I will say is that this season, I think we've recognised, is that I've tried to keep a very settled side.
Yeah, that's where the pressure is going to actually.
Yeah.
Are you tempted to sort of...
No, I'm not. I don't want to do that. There was times last season I was very frustrated by doing that.
Yeah.
And I feel the players, and I'm certainly Steve will, you know, he knows what I preach, is the fact is if you've got the shirt, you're holding on to it. And some of our performances have been excellent, and they deserve to keep the shirt. There's no point in changing something that doesn't need changing. Again, if you're going away from home, you may change against the personnel. But I'll tell you this, ladies and gentlemen, we don't fear anybody. We really don't fear anybody, and our players go out there with the right type of motivation. They're fit, they're strong, they're fresh. And there are a few frustrated ones. So I have to deal with that. I mean, today, honestly, I have to get the people on. I want them to knock on the door, because if they don't knock on the door, it means that they don't care. I don't want it every day, but you know, they understand because I tell them the truth, and I don't hold back. You know, there's no hiding place. We've spoken from day one, Foz, and we're about a team game and a squad game, and we're going to need that. Every club needs that, and it is frustrating for some. And if you know, look, let's face it this way: if they don't like it, then I'd let them go. I'd let them go if it was right for the club. If they didn't want to be here, then I feel that it would be an injustice to anybody to have a player not playing for the club that he wants to be at. They are good players, and we would do our best to keep hold of them. But if there is a frustrated one who feels he must leave, then I'll look at it and do my best to make sure we come out as a club with the right type of choice and decision.